All right, our recipe says we're going to start with 425, which it is set for, and my dark pan's out. I've removed the tendon from the chicken pieces, okay? My chicken pieces are not too wide, so I did not have to trim them, but if they are like real thick, more than 3/4, you wanna just cut them in half so they're not so wide. You want a thin strip of chicken, okay? Our next step is we're going to use the food processor to grind up our Ritz crackers. One of the tricks to a food processor is you have to have everything lined up. Also, the blade has to go in first before you put in food, because if something's underneath it, it will prevent the whole thing from working. Also, this back part has to line up as well. So when you get the lid, it's very particular because it wants to make sure that you do not get injured. So once I put that on, it's going to click in the back, which is really hard to do with one hand. And once that's in, we're going to pulse the cracker. You can do it multiple times. I like to pulse them to make sure I have them exactly the way I want. So you see that they're crumbly. A couple of turns here and there are okay, but for the most part, it should be broken up. All right, to remove the top, that's the tricky part. You have to twist it one direction, and it is super picky, so you want to make sure you untwist it so it opens up. Sometimes I like to unplug it just to make sure I don't actually hit the button or anything like that. When you untwist the lid, you're turning it to the right and it unlocked. So once that's done, you can remove it from the food processor. So the lid is that direction and the base is that direction. So left for the base, right for the lid. Super confusing, makes it complicated. All right, we're gonna take our crackers, remove the lid, blade. Jeez, I need a video recorder. And we're gonna put those crackers into our container. All right, the next step is we are going to grate our cheese, which I showed you we use the grater. I always put a plate down. I want to make sure this plastic's out of the way, and you'll grate it down. You'll see on this part of the Parmesan cheese, that's called a rind. You do not want to use that. So where the dark and the light, as soon as you get to the dark, you want to stop, okay? There are things you can use the rind for, but we're not using it in this recipe. So you're gonna use this side with the plate down, and you're going to measure out 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to add that cheese to my mixture. And then my next step is I'm going to microwave my butter. We're going to use a liquid measuring cup, and you're going to put a paper towel over it to prevent it from splattering. I think I wrote 20 seconds on the recipe. I think that was the perfect time from the other day. All right, 20 seconds. Start. All right, one thing we need to talk about is our cutting board. That chicken with pieces go into the trash. When you're done with your cutting board, you will wash it in the sink normally, rinse it, dry it, and then you actually take this and put it in the microwave for a final step of sanitation. You'll put it in the microwave for 1 minute, and it does fold with that little piece, okay? Probably show you that again in a little bit, how to do that. All right, our butter is ready. No, it's not, I lied. Opening up to check on my butter in 20 seconds was not long enough, so I'm gonna add a little bit more time. For the most part, it is all melted. It started popping, so I stopped it. I added just 5 more seconds. All right, we're gonna add our butter to this dish. It makes it a little bit easier. You see there's a little chunk of butter left in there, but it'll be okay. I could have microwaved it a little bit longer. All right, in my shallow dish, I'm using a round cake pan. We're gonna add the remaining of the ingredients that are found on the recipe. So that would be, the Ritz crackers are in here, the garlic salt, garlic powder, and the Parmesan cheese. So they're all in there. We're gonna mix that up. You can use a wooden spoon. You can use your hands if you want to, but a wooden spoon, you don't wanna use metal on metal because it will scratch the bottom of the pan. One step that we probably should have done at the beginning is spraying the cookie sheet. When you spray the cookie sheet in class, I expect you to spray it over a trash can or over your sink. Never spray it directly over the floor. When spraying with this ingredient, make sure you're not holding it down for 30 seconds. It's just 3 light squirts of the PAM. That's it. You don't need a whole bunch. Kind of hard to see from the video, but you can see that it's lightly sprayed and ready to go. So this should have probably been done earlier, but in this video it's going to be later. The next step is we are going to dredge the chicken. We are using the butter. In other recipes, sometimes they use egg or milk, but in this recipe, we are going to use butter. We're going to flip and coat the chicken, okay? And then you're going to place it on the cookie sheet. One thing that I was not giving a good example with is I had my paper on the stove, which we know is a no-no. You can see most of the ingredients are gone after I dip them, so I'm gonna now place them in the oven. All right, you have noticed that the racks for the oven are in the correct place. There's one that's in the center of the oven, and then one that's towards the top that will be used for the broil feature. We wanna make sure when we're cooking them the first time, we're using the center. On the broiler, you want to make sure that I did not use the top one because it's way too close and I didn't want to start a fire, so I used the one right underneath. So it's technically the second row. So to start it, it goes in the middle, and then when we broil, it goes on the top. All right, they're going to be cooking on the middle rack for about 15 minutes. All right, to check in for a minute, we have 9 minutes left on our timer. This is our digital thermometer we're going to use. The back side is how you turn it on. And once you turn it on, it will turn on and it will adjust. This is probe number 1 because it's plugged into the top, and it will tell you the temperature. Currently, it's set to 145, which I would like to, you can increase it to the internal temperature of chicken, which we're going with 165. Okay. And current temperature is 75. When we use this, when we pull out the chicken, we're gonna put it in the thickest piece, just poke it in there without touching the bottom of the pan and make sure our chicken is the right temperature. Have your pot holders out and ready to roll. Let's talk about the food processor. This comes apart, so you'll just rinse it out. Don't drop this in hot soapy water. Treat this as like a knife. You'll wash this out, dry it, and then you will put it back on the food processor. Carefully, don't get it all jammed up, okay? If you need help, ask me. Let's talk about the cutting board. So this cutting board is now washed that we used. The next step is we are going to place it in the microwave. You will see that I just basically folded it over. Oh, it's hard to do in the video. You'll see I folded it over, okay? And then I'm just gonna put it in the microwave for 1 minute. And this is the final sanitation process to know that everything's been killed on it. So I washed it, dried it, and then it goes into the microwave. When it's done, you'll unfold it and you'll put it back into your kitchen cabinet. On the cutting boards, there's like these little pictures. Those, it doesn't matter what's on them because any of the flexible cutting boards are for meats. So even though you see a cute carrot, it doesn't matter, we use it for meat. The hard cutting boards, those little plastic ones that we've used for other labs, those hard ones, those ones are used for cutting vegetables and rolling out things and so on and so forth. All right, our timer just went off, so I'm going to remove the chicken and I'm going to place it on the top rack. Remember, for the broil feature, we're going to crack the oven, okay? Up here, you're going to hit broil start, okay? And you want to make sure you leave the oven cracked, keeping an eye on it. Basically, at this point in time, we just want all the cracker crumbs to turn golden brown. Once they turn golden brown, we'll pull it out and then we'll test it to see if it meets the temperature requirements for chicken. All right, I set my timer for 2 minutes and I think we're about ready. So I'm going to remove the chicken from the oven. Okay, you will see that the spreading is golden brown, it's sizzling. I'll take the biggest piece, the thickest piece, so I'm gonna go with this one. Place it in there, make sure I'm not touching the probe at the bottom. As soon as I do, it starts going off because it fell and hit the other parts. So it is definitely cooked. That's why the timer is going off. I can check another piece if I want. That one's good to go as well. Okay. When you're done, you'll remove it, turn off your oven. Do not leave the broiler on high, it's dangerous. Turn off the oven, and then you're gonna transfer your chicken tenders with tongs. And that's it. When cleaning the thermometer, this probe thing comes off, and you just need to wipe down this with hot soapy water.